Oh, howdy all, grab yourself a drink, it is time for some PathOfExile discussion. Today I wanted to talk about the Krangled Passives event, which has been one of the March events that GGG have been running lately. This has been a fairly unique event where the entire passive tree is scrambled. What does scrambled mean? Well, it means that all of the notable passives across the entire tree are swapped with each other. So for instance, Endurance here is something that would be in a totally different spot on the passive tree normally, but it's been moved here. All of the notables are transposed with other notables, all of the small nodes are transposed with other small nodes, and all of the keystones are transposed with other keystones. So where Iron Reflex is on the normal tree would be in the south-southeast area, instead here it is in the northwest. And possibly of most interest, all of the small nodes and all of the large nodes within all of the ascendancies have been scrambled. So Avatar of the Slaughter, which normally belongs to the Raider, is now an option for the Inquisitor. Instruments of Zeal is also still an option for the Inquisitor. And then you have small nodes that would belong to other ascendancies normally, and they have been shoved over in the ascendancy cluster for the Inquisitor as well. Of course, everything that you are not connected to is veiled as well. So in order to try and scout out your passive tree, that requires a substantial investment of resources, or alternately, it requires cooperation with other players, because all players that play this event share the same passive tree. Now, this creates an interesting dynamic where the passive tree structure is different, but it also makes the game meaningfully harder because your character will be quite a bit weaker than they would be in the base game. Why is that? Well, it's because there's a lot of nodes that don't really do very much on the passive tree unless you are playing a build that optimizes for them. For example, I am forced to path through wand attack speed and accuracy. My character is a spellcaster. I get absolutely nothing from this node. And there's quite a number of these nodes across the passive tree, and you'll also have to find a bunch of them as you explore. As I see it, there are three main ways that you can play this event. The first one is that you can go in with no foreknowledge at all, or with almost no foreknowledge. This is the way that I played it. I deliberately chose to play an Inquisitor because I knew the Occultist was the strongest ascendancy, and I thought, well, I don't know anything about the Inquisitor, so I'm just going to force that to work somehow. And I've chosen to go with the Inquisitor ascendancy and just play around, find nodes that seem like they're useful, and spec them, and then try to force a character to work. This has been a lot of fun, but it has resulted in a low power character. My experience has been that my character has been probably a little bit weaker than a character of comparable level would be in Ruthless normally, and definitely far, far, far weaker than a character of comparable level would be in the base game. The second way that you can play it is you can have a look for major things on the tree you want to work towards. So for instance, you might know that you want to spec a whole bunch of mana reservation efficiency and aura nodes, so you can look up a cheat sheet and get a sense of exactly where all of these are across the passive tree. These cheat sheets do exist now, and I'll put a link down in the description below if that's the way you want to play. The third way you can play it is you can see it as an optimization puzzle where you look at all of the information that's available across the passive tree that's been scouted out by other players, and you try to build the most powerful character possible within the constraints of the event. All of these are valid ways to play it. Of course, if you're trying to win the event, then the correct way to play it is going to be to treat it as an optimization puzzle, but alternately, it's perfectly fine to just play it for a bit of fun the way that I've been doing as well. Now, the thing that's really noticeable in this event is that you are extremely starved for attribute points, something players aren't generally used to being in short supply of in the base game. Now, in the base game, you might sometimes spec a node like Alacrity or one of the other similar nodes like Beef that will provide you with a short-term boost to a particular attribute that you need right then and there. But generally, you're allocating these with an idea, I'm going to allocate this in the short term. And then in the medium term, I'm going to get rid of this node because it's terrible, and I want something else in its place. In the Krangled Passives event, you actually really want to look for these nodes. These nodes are a substantial power boost when you get them. And I have Alacrity, I have Expertise, and they have been absolutely fantastic nodes that I would not respec for anything. I also have a 20 Strength node somewhere. Again, one of the best nodes on my entire tree. This is very different to the base game where these are filler nodes that you don't want to take. Why is this? It's because it removes pressure on the rest of your gear. You'll find that you'll have a small amount of resistances on the tree because there's quite a lot of nodes that provide resistances, but you won't have very much in the way of attributes on the tree. You will then need to gear for attributes. And in fact, I am using an amulet that you probably would not use in the base game, solely because this amulet is providing me with a total of 80 points of attributes. This is a huge boost for me, And all of the other effects on this amulet are pretty much neither here nor there. I'm using it because it's giving me 60 points of strength, it's giving me 20 points of intelligence. This is allowing me to use my gems. Ultimately, I believe that if you're playing this event with a goal of winning it, i.e. being the group that does the Searing Exarch and the Eater of Worlds the fastest, you would probably be in a huge advantage if your group had an Astromantis drop for you, because then you could set up a situation where you've got one dedicated carry who is able to use all of their gems without fear or favour, and then the other players would then combine auras in order to power that character up. That's not the way that I'm playing it though. I've just been playing it solo and it has been a lot of fun. Anyways, highly recommend giving this a go. I think that this event will get run again. This is not going to be everyone's favourite event. In fact, I think a lot of people will give this a shot and decide it's definitely not for them. But it will be some players' favourite event, and that makes it worth trying. That makes it worth experiencing. Maybe it's one of yours, and maybe it's not. But either way, you'll get a bit of experience playing the game in a very different style, where you've got a lot less character power, but you have a lot of crazy new options. And that, for me, has been well worth playing. May your Varlorbs have interesting results.